What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the YouTube channel of The Horror Within Me. I am Eric, and this video we're going to be counting down my top 10 favorite final girls in horror movies. All right, coming in at number 10, we have Tree Gilman from the Happy Death Day films. I thought that the Happy Death Day movie was very inventive and creative and different than what we're used to. And Tree, is she a final girl? I think she's a final girl, even though she is killed throughout the entire movies. But somehow it's reset, so it doesn't count, right? It's like a video game. She keeps resetting to her save point. um, but that's why she's number 10 on the list. She's smart. She is trying to learn from her mistakes and figures it out eventually, and has all the makings of modern day final girls. So that is number 10. Coming in at number 9, we have Gale Weathers from the Scream franchise. Gale Weathers, we meet starting off not thinking she's going to be a final girl and really not rooting for her. She's a bitch. She's self absorbent and only thinking about herself and taking advantage of poor Dewey. But we grow to love Gale, and Gale has been in every single entry of the Scream franchise, now more than Sidney Prescott as soon as Scream 6 is released. So let's hope that Gale keeps her status as the longest running final girl in horror movie history, or is she going to get axed in the knife or whatever you want to call it in Scream 6? I hope not, because at this point, it would be just tragic. I mean, it was bad enough what they did to Dewey in part 4 or 5, but we're not here to talk about the most disappointing deaths. That's another video. But we are talking about our final girls, and Gale Weathers comes in at number 9. Coming in at number 8, we have Erin from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, played by Jessica Biel. My favorite version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I recently rewatched it and I did an episode on it on my podcast with my friend Jenny. And while I love Erin, I also hate her because she's a little fucking annoying. But she still figured it out. She fought back. And what she does to the sheriff at the end and saves the baby, redeems her as final girl status, and why she made this list. But other than that, she made a lot of dumb choices and really should have just not have survived as long as she did. So that was kind of luck. But it is what it is. Coming in at number 7, we have Tina Shepard from the Friday the 13th New Blood movie, which is the 7th installment in the Friday the 13th franchise. Tina Shepard is a telekinetic, troubled young girl who goes back to the cabin on Crystal Lake that her parents and her lived in, I guess, on the summers or whenever they did it, where her mom and dad were fighting, and she accidentally is the cause of her father's death and drowning. We also see her bring back Jason with the same powers, but it's an inventive and fun Friday the 13th film. Tina fights back even though she's terrified, which is fun to watch, and one of my favorite final girls and why she's on the list. Coming in at number 6, we have Grace Lee Domas. I don't know how to say the name, but she's from Ready or Not, and she is badass. Those of you who haven't seen the movie, the character Grace is getting married, and the family has a ritual where they have to play a game, and it's like hide and seek, but they all try to sacrifice her to the devil kind of thing. Super fun twist. Fun ass movie, and my favorite part of the entire movie, you would think would be the ending twist. It's not. It's when the little kid finds her and she punches that little bitch in the face. I don't know why. He deserved it, and you don't see it much. And that alone solidified her status as a final girl. Coming in at number 5, we have Alice Johnson from A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. I'm losing my train of thought. Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Alice, we meet her first. She's very timid. She's shy. She's quiet. But as her friends are slowly dying off, she takes their dream powers and their strengths that make them unique, and it begins to change her, and then to a final badass warrior who has all the karate moves and acrobats that we like to see in characters like Buffy and kicks Freddy's ass. He doesn't get any better than that. And the only final girl to appear in another Friday or another Nightmare on Elm Street movie and still survive. It never happened before, and I don't think it's happened since. And I don't count Wes Craven's New Nightmare as Nancy Thompson because she was actually playing herself as Heather Langenkamp. So Alice Johnson is the only badass that went up against Freddy twice and lived to tell about it. Coming in at number 4, we have Jamie Lloyd, little Jamie Lloyd from Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, played by Danielle Harris. One of my favorite characters in the Halloween franchise. Would love to see them revisit her again because what they did to her in Halloween 6 was a monstrosity. I don't even want to talk about it, but we're going to talk about Halloween 4 and 5 and why she's on this list. While she may have grouped, I may group, Rachel Carruthers as an honorable mention in Halloween 4 as a favorite final girl with Jamie because of all the chemistry that the two had together. Unfortunately, Rachel is not Survivor, so lucky in Halloween 5, where Jamie really, if you didn't want to call her a final girl that much in Halloween 4, you definitely are going to call her a final girl in Halloween 5 as she goes up against her uncle, the Boogeyman, on her own in the supersized Myers house that is a Victorian and not anything like the other house in any of the other Halloweens. They didn't even try. They're like, who fucking cares? But Jamie Lloyd definitely earned her spot in the top as a favorite final girl of mine. And I actually recently met the actress Danielle Harris in August at a horror convention and have a signed picture of her from Halloween 4. And I am obsessed and love it, hanging on my wall over here. Coming in at number 3, we have Nancy Thompson from A Nightmare on Elm Street, the first Nightmare on Elm Street. We meet Nancy Thompson in 1984 with A Nightmare on Elm Street, and her final girl is very different than what we are used to seeing as final girls in horror movies, especially in the 70s and 80s. Yes, they fought back and things like that, but Nancy was strategic in going up against Freddy Krueger. Her friends are being killed and she's feeling powerless, but she doesn't just succumb to it. She starts to study and look into his background and finding ways to set him up and booby trap him and catch the bad guy and get rid of him, which she ultimately does, which is why she's such a badass final girl, which I'm upset of what they did to her in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, but that was the trend in the 80s. It was very known that if you were in one of the horror movies back then and you came back for a sequel, 9 times out of 10 you didn't survive, and the torch was passed to quote unquote a new final girl for the franchise. Not done as much today, especially with the Scream franchise. Sidney Prescott, as one of the final girls, was in it all the way up until the end, which brings me in to number 2, Sidney Prescott from the Scream franchise. Sidney freaking Prescott, what a character. And what a shame that she's not going to be in Scream 6 because she really earned her spot in those films. And the film is not going to be the same without her, regardless of what they try to do. And I'm very nervous, but I will see it because I'm a horror fan. But Sidney Prescott, really, we watch her go through, teenage life, growing up in each Scream franchise, and still trying to live her life, but always prepared after the first Scream. Even in the first Scream, when she first becomes our favorite final girl, she she is thinking about what's going on in her life and being attacked, and she's trying to, run away from it, but then we ultimately see her come to terms that this is something that's going on, and then she's going to try to investigate, which is why it was so interesting that after she decided to sleep with her boyfriend Billy, is that she started to re-question his motive and if he was involved in the killings. That to me was a moment where they had this thing before with final girls that if you had sex or and did drugs or you weren't this perfect girl next door, you wouldn't survive. And Sidney Prescott broke that and changed the way a person can be a final girl in horror. And that is why she will always be a favorite. She was so close to the number 1 spot, but it is difficult. And she was there, but the number 1 spot still holds true to Laurie Strode from the Halloween franchise. There's something about Laurie Strode and Jamie Lee Curtis. And she's like the OG final girl, even though there were movies before that with like Texas Chainsaw with Sally. Laurie Strode in Halloween also, she fought back, but she didn't want to, and it's very seen in throughout the movie. Like, think about it. She picks up the knife, she does what she has to do to him, and then when he's down, she's like, "Okay, I'm done," and she drops the knife. Several times we are like, "Stop dropping the fucking knife!" But she still gets resourceful. Like, I think Laurie Strode became a final girl in the moment that she locked herself in the closet to save the children after she locked them in the room, and she traps herself like in a corner basically and had no way out, and then realized fuck, and became resourceful and grabbed a hanger and started to make a weapon. That is when Laurie Strode became a final girl. And when because final girls are resourceful and they use their surroundings and their cleverness to outwit and outsmart their antagonist that is happening in the movie. So in my opinion, that's when Laurie Strode really peaked at being a final girl and sold her spot and kept it as the champion in the number one spot in my book. And I can't wait to see how this final girl performs in Halloween Ends, which is coming out in a little over a week. And I'm praying that they don't destroy her as Jamie Lee Curtis's last portrayal of Laurie Strode. Let her go out as the ultimate final girl after 44 years against one man and not kill her off, because at that is just going to be tragic. But those are my top 10 favorite final girls in horror movies. Let me know in the comment section if you agree. Like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. And that is it. I thank you for tuning in and watching this video with me and all the other things that I post on YouTube or the podcast. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook for more Horror Within Me content. And that is it, my friends. As always, stay safe, but more importantly, stay spooky.